Today we're going to be making congee, and congee is one of the healthiest things that we can make for ourselves. It's got a lot of different ingredients, and it's totally versatile, and especially during cold and flu season, if you're not feeling well, it's a great little pick-me-up. It's an old traditional Asian dish. A lot of cultures have it, but I want to show you how I do things with this dish today. So we're first going to begin with a short grain rice. This is arborio rice, and this is the type of rice that you can use if you want to make a risotto as well. Okay, but I'm going to show you something special about this arborio rice in just a second. Something you got to do before you get it into the pot. It's a big deal. Easy, but a big deal. Okay, and here it is, and I got 1 cup of that. Because the ratio to rice to liquid is a little bit different than typical rice to liquid. I got about 1 cup of chopped up carrots, diced up. I got some asparagus here, about 3/4 of a cup. I have some mushrooms. You can do whatever you like with the mushrooms. These are really nurturing for the kidneys, and so I really like these because that's where our resident chi is. Little bit of, we got a clove of garlic here, nature's antibiotic, that's a good thing. And I have some sliced up shallots here. These things are delish. If you're in a supermarket, this is basically what they look like. You can buy them either singly or you can buy them in a package. For a protein, I chopped up some jumbo shrimp, okay? And I probably got about 1.5 cups of this too. For that, but this is going to go in at the end, and we're going to season this with some salt and pepper as well. For our liquid, we're going to be using vegetable stock, vegetable broth here, and like I mentioned earlier, it's a different ratio. So each one of these is 32 ounces. You guess how many cups that is? Anyways, so we're going to be using 2 of these for 1 cup of the arborio rice. This arborio rice, it's got a nice creamy texture to it as it continues to cook. Now this whole thing, when it's in the pan, is going to be about an hour, okay? But it gets creamy, almost like porridge-like, and it's got a nice nutty flavor to it as well, which makes asparagus, which is kind of woodsy as well. It's a nice combination. Okay, so let's get to how we treat our arborio rice. Here I have a sieve. Basic little sieve here, and it's because this particular short grain rice is so starchy, it would leave a film and be all in your pot with your soup, with your congee here. So we're gonna have to scrape off some of the starchiness of it. So all you have to do is this here, is I'm just gonna take it, pour that in my sieve.
What if you don't have a sieve?
Any strainer. But you want to strain it, and you kind of want to run it under the water and run your fingers through it like this here, and you're going to get a lot off of it. I tend to do this twice because it dries out really quick. Okay, you got that. If you want to, you can simply hose it down, like point it at your mother and push the trigger. Okay, and here you do that too, but sort of just like raking it under for a little bit. And I'm just gonna shake that out a little bit. And I'm just gonna let it sit there, draining into the sink for a little bit. And I'm gonna do that one more time. Now we're gonna get into the cooking process. So when we come back, I'm gonna rinse this one more time, and then I'm gonna show you how it all fits together. And total cook time is gonna be about an hour. Welcome back, squirrels. Okay, we have all of our ingredients assembled. I redid the rice over here, and you can just again, if you don't have one of these, you can just put it in a bowl and just rake your fingers through it, but I like to get as much of the starchy stuff off. And I'm just gonna let that sit there for another moment or so. Okay, let's get to the cooking part. All right, so I got it on a low medium heat here, and we're gonna start off with our extra virgin olive oil. And I'm gonna put a tablespoon and a half in this here. I eyeball it, as you well know. Okay, so I'm just gonna do that. Let the oil heat up a little bit, Add a little dab more. Okay, there we go. And I would dare say that, the fact that, I did that much, your mother would consider that she just cooked a full meal. So I'm gonna let that warm up a little bit. I'm gonna be using some soy sauce, and I got the full loaded brand, not the unleaded stuff, the low sodium. So this has got some salt in it. We're not gonna use too much of it, but you don't need to add a whole lot of salt either because of that. We're gonna throw a couple splashes of Worcestershire for flavoring as well. Okay, but I am gonna salt the bottom of my pan, not too much. There we go, just for the veggies. There we go. Okay, first up on the list, the shallots. In you go. Okay, and to go with that, we're gonna take our garlic. Bada bing. Okay, there we go. And we're gonna let that go on this, like this medium-low heat until it starts to talk to us. And I can see that the extra virgin olive oil is starting to begin to sizzle a little bit more. But I want to get those flavors in there. The one thing you really don't want to do is don't burn your garlic. Don't turn the heat up too high. It makes it really, really bitter. The other thing, because this is such a starchy type of rice, is you just can't let it go and just sit there forever. It can stick to the bottom of your pan, and you don't want that. So this is gonna require some maintenance and stirring from time to time, so you don't burn it to the bottom of your pan. Okay, so can you bring the camera over here? And so this is the sizzling stuff that we're starting to talk about. And it's starting to smell pretty darn tasty in here now. There you go. And so I'm just gonna let the shallots, which are really nice, they're kind of a little bit of a blend between garlic and onion. And I like that. Okay, and now they're really starting to talk to us. So this is a good thing. Now, in my mind, this is a good time to start adding some vegetables. Now, interestingly, the only thing I'm gonna add right now is my carrots to soften them up. Okay, so in go my carrots. As you can see, I had about a couple of those. And so I'm just gonna let that go for about a minute or so. Because the time on the heat is gonna be an hour, a lot of the softening of these vegetables here is gonna happen as it gently simmers for that time. So I'm just gonna let it, soften up just a hair right now. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna add our rice. And the reason why I have such a big pot is we got a lot of vegetable broth to put in there. I like the vegetable broth because it's flavored and it's got the vegetables in there, as opposed to water, but water will do just fine. So, fair enough. Now, I'm coming over here, and you can see it's arboreal rice. It's more, it's not quite clinging to itself, which is a good sign. Okay, so, don't burn your fingers. In you go with the rice. And so what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna incorporate that, and I'm gonna let this, just go for, no more than a couple minutes, because I wanna see it get a little bit on the golden brown side, and you'll start to smell it. You really will. Again, it's got a little bit of a nutty type of a flavor to it and an aroma to it. There you go. I'm just gonna let that sit there for a moment. So as you can see, it's only been about maybe 3 minutes, and I keep kind of stirring because I don't want it to stick to the bottom, but there's already a nice little nutty smell that's coming through here, which is great. Now, I want you to also notice the texture of the rice. Nothing magical has happened yet. I just want you to keep in mind how separate it is right now while it's cooking, like this. and we're going to notice that what it turns out to be at the end of the process. So now, here's what we're going to do. Because I'm getting that nutty flavor, okay, I got my vegetable broth, whatever's on sale. I have no allegiance. Most of the time I like to make my own. Okay, I'm just going to shake that up a little bit. Don't drop this in the middle of the pan because you get splashes everywhere, and so you're going to want to sort of like put this more against the side of the pan. Now, believe it or not, this cup of rice is going to absorb all of this liquid. And remember, we're going to recycle this. Okay. Remember, put it towards the side of the pan so you don't splash everywhere. Nobody likes a messy cook. Okay, now this part is critical. You're going to come all the way over here and you're going to turn it all the way up to high. We're going to bring this thing up to a boil. Just for a moment. So this is going to take a little bit of time. So we'll come back in a moment or two after this thing is a boil. We'll show you what that looks like. Okay, you can see I got it back to a boil. Now you see this film on the side here? This is what's left of that starchiness that I was talking about. If we didn't rinse the rice, it would have been a lot worse. But it's not a big deal. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take a knob here and we're going to turn it down to a pretty low heat now. Once we got it up to a boil, okay, now what we're going to do is we're just going to turn that down low and we're going to let it simmer. Now, I'm going to take a little Worcestershire sauce. Again, you know, brand of your choice. I'm just going to throw a little dab in there like that. That's about it. Good to go. And I'm going to, you know, carefully measure out some soy sauce. Probably about a tablespoon or so. There you have it. And like magic, we're good to go. Okay, now, remember, because this is starchy, you know, if you don't pay attention to it every few minutes, like maybe every 5-10 minutes or so, while this is at a low simmer, make sure you give it a stir to make sure it's not sticking to the bottom of the pan. Okay, now I'm going to take my little kitchen timer here. I'm going to set it for 60 minutes. Hit start. Okay, and I'm going to cover it loosely like that. And with about 15 minutes left, I'm going to add the asparagus because I don't want to put that in now because I hate my vegetables when they're mush. So I want to have it be a little al dente, a little bit of a bite to it. Throw the mushrooms in there, and maybe with 10 minutes left, we'll put our shrimp in there as well. I wanted you to take a look at this. This is sort of like the simmer that we want it to be at, a slow simmer on our stove, which isn't the best stove ever, but you know, it gets the job done, of course. You know, nobody's starving, but it's like between a 3 and a 4. So it's got a gentle simmer going on, and already you can see the thickening process of the arboreal rice. Come on over here and take a look at this. I just want to show you how it's been thickening up a little bit. And there you can see how it's really starting to come together. And we get about 15 minutes left now. So we're going to take our asparagus and drop that right in. And we're going to take our mushrooms and drop that right in. And of course, this is going to add to the thickening of things. Just going to incorporate that all in. That's going to go for about 15 minutes or so. And at the same time, follow me over to the refrigerator, if you will. And I'm going to take out that cut up shrimp that I had here. And you don't want to put this into the soup while it's cold. So I'm just going to let it sit out for a few minutes at room temperature. And we'll probably put that in with about 5-7 minutes left to go because this doesn't take any time at all to heat through. So I'm just going to put that right there. Cover this back up a little bit more. So you can see how I got this turned way down low. And the reason for that is so I don't burn burn it to the pan. The asparagus is in there, the mushrooms are in there. Still pretty toasty, and I can feel the bottom of it. It was going very nice. Now I got about 9 minutes left. I'm gonna take the shrimp that's been sitting out on the counter for a little bit. Just gonna put that right in there now. And there you have it. And an hour is up. Let's take a look at our congee. So I pretty much turned off the stove and give it a stir here, and you can feel how it's a nice thick porridge. Seasoned to taste. I added a little bit of pepper. I added a pinch more salt. I tossed in a little bit more soy sauce and a little bit more Worcestershire. So let's take a look here, and chugga, woo, woo. Fabulous.